You wouldn't like to try to get this to work and then you take that in and play with it if you want.
I think I'm live. I think we're live.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to call the Galleon City Council meeting to order at 7 o'clock. And the first thing we have is the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. If you'll join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Roll call, council members.
Ms. Alt,
Here.
Mr. Bodkins,
Yes,
Ms. Earlston,
Here.
Dr. Fellner,
Here.
Mr. Ivy.
He's here. He must be muted.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Rickert,
here,
Mr. Triplett.
here,
All council members are present for this meeting. Next is roll call of elected officials and safety service director.
Mayor O'Leary,
here,
Auditor Baldinger,
here,
Director of Law Palmer,
Here.
Treasurer Sparks,
Here.
Safety Service Director Ward.
Here.
We have the minutes you've all maybe had a chance to read. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting?
I would like to approve the minutes of the February 9th meeting.
Mr. Bodkin made the motion, seconded by
Second that motion.
Dr. Fellner, seconded. Any additions or corrections? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Minutes of the last meeting of February 9th has been approved as presented. Moving on, all the items on the legislation tonight has been through council. So do I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
I'll make that motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Okay.
And I will second that.
Seconded by, was it Ms. Earlston?
Yep.
Okay. Roll call.
No,
Or-
all in.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, oppose. The agenda has been approved as presented. Moving on to legislation, ordinance 2021-17, first reading.
Ordinance number 2021-17, entitled ordinance approving decisions of the City of Galleon Treasury Investment Board and declaring an emergency.
You've heard the reading, the ordinance discussion.
This came through Finance Committee twice, at least twice annually. There is an investment meeting to discuss the city's money. Meter and Associates is our representative that guides and suggests the investments. This meeting was held. I was in attendance, but I am not a voting member. The voting members are the mayor, the auditor, and I believe the treasurer. Gail, can you kind of guide us through? We had a discussion of this in finance, but can you guide us through this ordinance, please?
Yeah, this ordinance here is got to do with two investments that had come due. Let me see if I can find the dates here for you.
February 2nd and February 19th.
Okay, I didn't see the dates right in front of me. Yeah, February 2nd, we had a note come due for $599,380. And the investment committee voted to renew that for 5 years. And then on February, you said 17th, Julie?
19th.
19th?
19th, yeah.
299, 087 .75 was also voted for a renewal by the investment committee. And we voted that was voted in for a 1-year reinvestment. These this here is part, our policy calls for a final vote to council to complete this investment renewal. So that's what this ordinance is about, for the completion of the investment. And there'll be some more coming due throughout the year too, so I don't know. 4 or 5, maybe 6 more investments. And just to let everybody know, the total amount of investments here, the total portfolio in meter is $16,485,286.
Any questions to ask of any of the committee members, including Gail?
Mr. President, the only thing I'd like to add is that I know that through the years, these investments have helped our community with, well, we made some money off these investments, which is good for the community. So this is something that everybody, apparently the investment group that we hired feels that this is, as well as the voting, feel that this is a good thing to renew. Sorry for my voice.
Any other comments or questions? Mr. Sparks?
Yeah, just what Gail said, the 16 million probably includes the Star Ohio too. So these are investments that come due throughout the year. And then when we meet, we vote on them and bring them to council. Meter basically makes the suggestion where we have it, and we invest that money, based on whether we need cash or not, and the timing of that. So it goes through the mayor and the auditor as well. So that's it.
Yeah, Rod, by the paperwork that I have here in front of me, it shows the Star Ohio investment being at 3.8 million. 3,829,848.87. That's added on. Our total portfolio should be around somewhere between 19 and 20.
Yeah, 20 is about where we finished up, so that's about right.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
I was just going to add what Gail said is that number that we invest with meter is separate and apart. Generally speaking, a little longer term. Most of it. What Gail said is that number that we invest with meter is separate and apart. Generally speaking, a little longer term. Most of it.
Thank you.
Is there any type of need for speed on this, for lack of a better term?
Yeah, these are retroactive. They've already been done. So yeah, if we could do it, that would be great. We're approving these retroactively.
Well, if there's no other questions, to make a motion to go ahead and suspend the rules on ordinance 2021-17.
Heard the motion by Mr. Richard. Is there a second?
Like to second that.
Mr. Bodkin seconded it. Roll call.
Mr. Richard,
Yes.
Mr. Bodkins,
Yes.
Ms. Earlston,
Yes.
Dr. Fellner,
Yes.
Mr. Ivy,
Yes.
Mr. Triplett,
Yeah.
Ms. Alt.
Yes.
Motion to suspend the rules passed by 7-0 vote. Discussion on the ordinance. Eunice, did you have something? I thought you raised your hand. Okay, sorry about that. Any other discussion on this ordinance?
Mr. President, unless there's something else, I'd like to make a motion at this time to approve and pass ordinance 2021-17.
Heard the motion by Mr. Richards, a second.
Against,
Mr. Bodkin seconded it. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Richard,
Yes.
Mr. Bodkins,
yes,
Ms. Earlston,
Yes.
Dr. Fellner,
Yes.
Mr. Ivy,
Yes.
Mr. Triplett,
yes,
Ms. Alt.
Yes.
Motion passed. Ordinance 2021-17 is passed by a 7-0 vote. We're on to ordinance 2021-18, the first reading.
All right, Thomas is trying to get in. Hold on, let me get him in. All right. Ordinance number 2021-18, entitled ordinance authorizing the Safety Service Director to apply for and accept a Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act, CRRSA, airport grant from the U.S. Department of Transportation, Federal Aviation Administration, and declaring an emergency.
Heard the reading of the ordinance, the discussion.
Yes, this came through Finance Committee as well. I'm going to ask Ms. Ward to give us a rundown on this.
This is basically the follow-up to the CARES Act. We've been given $9,000 by the federal government for application to the operations, maintenance, et cetera, at the airport. So this money has already been allocated to us. We just need to sign the application and submit it.
Thank you. Other questions?
Ms. Ward, this can be used for any purpose deemed necessary at the airport?
Yes, yes. They leave it pretty wide open. So operations personnel, cleaning, sanitization, whatever we would typically do for normal operations at the airport can be covered by this money.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else?
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and proceed to the final reading on ordinance 2021-18 unless Mr. Richard has a question.
No, I was getting ready to do the same thing, Doc.
Okay,
Thanks.
we have a motion by Dr. Fellner, and we have a second.
second that,
Seconded by Mr. Bodkins. Roll call.
Dr. Fellner,
Yes.
Mr. Bodkins,
yes,
Ms. Earlston,
Yes.
Mr. Ivy,
Yes.
Mr. Richard,
Yes.
Mr. Triplett,
yes,
Ms. Alt.
Yes.
We suspend the rules of this ordinance passed by a 7-0 vote. Discussion on the ordinance.
I'd like to make a motion to pass ordinance 2021-18.
Heard the motion by Mr. Triplett. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Dr. Fellner seconded the motion. Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Triplett,
Yes.
Dr. Fellner,
Yes.
Mr. Ivy,
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Richard,
Yes.
Ms. Alt,
Yes.
Mr. Bodkins,
yes,
Ms. Earlston.
Yes.
It passed by a 7-0 vote. Next ordinance 2021-19, first reading.
Ordinance number 2021-19, entitled an ordinance establishing the Leisure Time State Capital Funding Bill Fund 416 and declaring an emergency.
Okay, discussion on this ordinance 2021-19, first reading.
Yes.
Let's
Oh, sorry. This came through Finance, and I was just going to ask the mayor to please elaborate.
I'll just introduce the fact, I'll say two things. One, I don't believe this really necessitates an emergency, but I would say once you have a chance to look at it next meeting, we certainly want to pass it. The work to set this ordinance up was really done in the auditor's office. And the goal of it is to set up this fund for us to receive this state capital grant, and then I think theoretically allow us to use that same fund structure to draw down funds if we were able to secure any more state funding. So with that, I'll stop and go. If Eunice, I think, probably has done a lot of the work, if you have more questions.
Eunice?
Mayor, I do, we do need this as an emergency because our next piece of legislation deals with appropriation of multiple funds, not just 416.
That out, well, then never mind what I said.
Sorry.
I think, however, that the 2 or 416, whatever the fund number is, will be there in the future. This is not, I think it's the second capital bill that we've administered, the pavilion, railroad pavilion being the other one. So this would be a cleaner way to do it. So.
Yeah, and we did speak with the state auditor's office as well, and have their blessing and everything on it. So we're good to go.
Other questions? If none, do I have a motion to suspend the rules on this ordinance?
I'll make that motion to suspend the rules on ordinance 2021-19 and proceed to the final reading.
Heard the motion by Dr. Fellner, seconded by Mr. Richard. Go ahead. Roll call.
Dr. Fellner,
Yes.
Mr. Richard. Where'd he go?
Yes.
Mr. Richard. Okay. Mr. Triplett,
Yes.
Ms. Alt,
Yes.
Mr. Bodkins,
Yes.
Ms. Earlston,
Yes.
Mr. Ivy.
Yes.
Motion to suspend the rules passed by 7-0 vote on ordinance 2021-19. Now discussion on the ordinance. Mr. Triplett,
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to pass ordinance 2021-19.
heard the motion by Mr. Triplett, second by Mr. Bodkins. Discussion? None, roll call.
Mr. Triplett,
Yes.
Mr. Bodkins,
Yes.
Ms. Earlston,
Yes.
Dr. Fellner,
Yes.
Mr. Ivy,
Yes.
Mr. Richard,
Yes.
Ms. Alt.
Yes.
Ordinance 2021-19 is passed by 7-0 vote. Next order is 2021-20, first reading.
Ordinance number 2021-20 entitled Ordinance Amending Ordinance Number 2020-92 Permanent 2020 Appropriations by transferring, advancing, and appropriating funds in various funds and declaring an emergency.
Discussion on this ordinance?
Yes, this came through Finance Committee. And I am definitely going to turn this over to Eunice for explanation.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Fellner.
You're welcome.
Julie, thank you, Julie. Okay, so I'll go through this each section like we normally do. Just a quick starter for section 2. In the past, we have not appropriated for advances. However, in my most recent conversation with the state auditors and discussing setting up Fund 416, they are now recommending that we try to budget for advances. So the first section, being section 2, is an appropriation into the general fund, advances out. Section 3 then advances those funds from the general fund into the new 416 fund that we just created for the Park on the Square project. Then section 4 appropriates those funds. There we go. Section 4 appropriates the $100,000 into the expenditure line for that project. Just a quick note, back to section 3, you can see that we have this advance being paid back no later than the fiscal year 2022. We kind of anticipate it being possibly done this year, but the grant does run through next year, so we didn't want to cut ourselves short. So it will be paid back by the end of next year at the latest. Section 5, 6, and 7. These are appropriations to replace, get purchase orders back in place. At the end of the year, we had some issues with the software that closed purchase orders, and we're still not sure how that happened. I was on the phone for over an hour today with tech support because I'm continuing to find more glitches in our system. So we're not sure what's happening, but it randomly closed multiple purchase orders. And these were some bigger ones. So the money that was on those purchase orders was dumped back into the cash. It just wasn't appropriated then for expenditures for this year. So we need to reappropriate those so that we can get the purchase orders back in place. So section 5 is to appropriate $102,000 back into 202. This is for the urban paving project. Section 6 is to appropriate $46,000 into the electric fund. This is for GPD doing the 69K system valuation. And some of these are kind of different amounts that may not match the contracts because we had already paid some of the money off of those purchase orders. So we're only appropriating the balance of what was left, just to clarify that. Then section 7 is to appropriate $100,710 into the street fund. And this is part of the 598 widening work that's being done by GPD. And I would request that this be done as an emergency because we do have bills coming in on these projects that need purchase orders in place.
Hey, thanks for explaining all these. Are there questions?
So the reason, one of the reasons, this more statement than the question, the reason that the previous ordinance creating Fund 416 was important is that the first couple of sections are the funding of that grant, the pre-funding, I guess, as the state auditor would like us to do. So that was a good explanation, Ms. Colleen. So are there any other questions or comments? If not, I'd like to make a motion to move ordinance 2021-20 onto suspend the rules and proceed to the final reading.
Heard the motion by Dr. Fellner, seconded by Mr. Bodkins. Roll call.
Dr. Fellner,
Yes.
Mr. Bodkins,
Yes.
Ms. Earlston,
Yes.
Mr. Ivy,
Yes.
Mr. Richard,
Yes.
Mr. Triplett,
yes,
Ms. Alt.
Yes.
Motion to suspend the rules on 2021-19 is passed by a 7-0 vote. Discussion on the ordinance. Mr. Triplett,
I'd like to make a motion to pass ordinance 2021-19.
heard the motion by Mr. Triplett. Do I have a second?
It was 20, wasn't it?
Yeah.
20.
It should be 21-20.
21.
Sorry.
Yeah, 2020, 2021-20. Sorry. Second to that, Mr. Bodkin seconded. Discussion. Okay.
Mr. Triplett,
Yes,
Mr. Bodkins,
Yes.
Ms. Earlston,
Yes.
Dr. Fellner,
Yes.
Mr. Ivy,
Yes.
Mr. Richard,
Yes.
Ms. Alt.
Yes.
The ordinance passed by a 7-0 vote. Last one is ordinance 2021-21, first reading.
Well, I'm not sure what happened to mine.
Yeah, I
Oh.
don't have 20.
I didn't get it in the packet either.
Oh. Well, huh. Oops. Well, I'll share it then. I'll put it up on the screen since that
Good.
was my bad. All right. So I didn't realize it was missing. So hold on. So sorry about that. So, all right, let me go. in
must
there.
be for the fire department.
It is. Went through committee, so I don't know what happened. All right, so we'll just go through it this way. That'll work. Just make Phil be on longer. So, all right, so I'll share now. And there we go. There we go. Is it up there now? Hopefully.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, ordinance 2021-21, entitled ordinance authorizing the fire chief and or safety service director to apply for a grant from the Federal Emergency Management Agency FEMA and the Department of Homeland Security DHS under the Staffing and Adequate Fire and Emergency Response Grant Program in the amount of $747,665.49 and declaring an emergency.
Okay, heard the reading of the ordinance, discussion.
Whose committee did it go through?
Oh, I'm sorry. This came through the Police, Fire and Health Committee, and I'll let Chief Jackson explain that for everybody.
Okay, appreciate that. This is the third part of the FEMA grant process. They have three, and the group have already approved some equipment, some fire safety and prevention side. So there's two there, and then the third one is the staffing part of the FEMA grant, and this is the staffing part. It's almost identical to the one you approved last March, April, somewhere in that time frame, for us to do exactly what we're trying to continue to do. It's $355 million given out nationally and about 300 awards. And this basically pays for employees for a set number of time, for 3 years is what it is. And a couple of reasons why the timing sets up nice for our department and our city, as it did last year. And number one is succession planning. There's 9 of my employees will either be at retirement age or past retirement years of age and years of service throughout this grant process. So it allows us to maybe make use of those personnel, train them, and then roll them into the normal employment when those other ones retire. There's a possibility, if you've paid attention to the news in the county with the expansion of EMS and the talk about EMS and Bucyrus leaving the ambulance district, which provides ambulance service for the rest of the county besides Crestline, Polk Township, and Galleon. There's a lot of discussion. So we've been in discussion with townships about our services, and we want to make sure that we're poised to go take have that opportunity to do something and help our partners if we can. So the third thing it does is if we can get those employees, it helps cover some of the growth we've seen in the past bunch of years. I noted today that we are 900 calls per year more than we were in 2007, and 525 in the past 10 years was our increase in call volume with the same number of personnel. And the last thing it does, and we talked about this last March, is it helps us comply with an NFPA standard on fire staffing when it comes to a structure fire, which allows us to make entry. You have to have 2 in and 2 out to make that entry, unless obviously life safety is an issue to put that fire out. And so that means you have to have 4 there instantly to be able to do that. And our staffing doesn't allow for that currently. You see the numbers up there, that represents 3 firefighters, so $249,000 a year. That's for 3 people, 80, little more than 80 when you count what the federal government will pay for salaries, benefits, and whatnot. And then that times 3 years is the $747,665 figure. This is no cost share, so the city is not responsible. There you go, Mark. No cost share. Not responsible for any cost for those 3 years, nor is there a requirement to maintain that staffing level past the grant process, which means past the 3 years. So I come to you asking to allow us to apply again. It's a long shot, but it's 0% chance if we don't try. And so if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Yes, I got one, Mr. Jackson. What happens if your retirement fire people stay in the drop program? That adds another 8 years.
Well, a minimum. I mean, at most they can stay 8 years, but many of those are not getting into the drop due to age. You don't. I mean, I'm going to be gone soon thereafter. There is virtually no chance that these 3 employees won't have a place to stay there. And if we decided that we didn't need them, we would roll them in and have retirements. I don't have a worry about that. And then the other part is, I think our service expansion will then pay for those to continue on past those times, into the county. Yeah, does that answer you, Mark?
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, there's no requirement. There used to be a requirement that you had to hold those employees for another 3 years. Anybody that gets hired under this knows that it's a safer hire, they consider it. So they know that in a few years, there's always that possibility. What I'm saying is, I mean, we were at 9 last year when we were having this conversation. We're still at 9 and we're a year later. So there's just no way you're going to not have 3 positions to roll them into and not have to worry about any kind of layoff after 3 years.
Other questions for the chief?
Hey, Chief, this is Mike Richard. What time frame are we looking at for this?
This grant opened last week and I have until March 12th for the application to be put in.
Thank you.
Okay.
I've got when is the deadline then to hear back? Do you know when you would know?
I do have that written somewhere. They're going to start announcing awards late May, and
Okay.
they'll run those awards until 1st of October. They should have all the announcements out by the 1st of October.
Okay, thank you.
We will have one more meeting before that date you gave, Chief, but it's pretty close. Other discussion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules and proceed to the final reading on this ordinance and get it done. I'm sure that Chief Jackson has been working on it already. He's not waiting for our approval to start working at the last minute, but let's give him a little room and get it done.
I'll second that motion.
You heard the motion by Dr. Fellner, seconded by Ms. Earlston to suspend the rules. Roll call.
Dr. Fellner,
Yes.
Ms. Earlston,
Yes.
Mr. Ivy,
Yes.
Mr. Richard,
Yes.
Mr. Triplett,
Well, I guess, yes.
Ms. Alt,
Yes.
Mr. Bodkins.
Yes.
The ordinance 2021-21 is passed, suspend the rules by a 7-0 vote, not discussion on the ordinance.
I'd like to make a motion to pass ordinance 2021-21.
Okay, you heard the motion by Mr. Triplett, seconded by Mr. Bodkins. Discussion? If none, roll call.
Mr. Triplett,
Yes.
Mr. Bodkins,
Yes.
Ms. Earlston,
Yes.
Dr. Fellner,
Yes.
Mr. Ivy,
Yes.
Mr. Richard,
Yes.
Ms. Alt.
Yes.
The ordinance 2021-21 is passed by a 7-0 vote. Moving on to other business, meetings, upcoming meetings. Anybody wants to lead this?
I will start. The next Police, Fire, and Health Committee meeting will be on Thursday, March the 18th.
Okay. Other meetings we'd like to announce? Mr. Ivy? Mr. Ivy?
On ordinances on the March, what is that, Julie, the 2nd,
The second, yes.
Yes.
7 o'clock?
Mr. Ivy?
I believe Parks and Rec Wednesday, 7 o'clock Zoom on the 10th. Is that correct, Julie?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Mr. Triplett?
Utilities, March 3rd.
Okay. Anybody else got one coming up before the next council meeting on the 9th?
Julie, can you help me a little bit? Is the 11th our next meeting?
Yes, yours is the 11th.
Okay, the streets on the 11th, Zoom.
16th is Economic Development and Airport, and Finance. Last finance meeting was on Ash Wednesday. This one is on St. Patrick's Day, the 17th.
Okay. Okay, that's all the committee. And any other business would like council to bring up, any of the members?
I'd just like to state that I let my fellow council members down by not providing a draft of the letter that was referenced last time. I'm still working on it, so I beg your indulgence.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? If not, moving on, Auditor Gail.
I have nothing tonight.
Okay, Treasurer Sparks.
I just wanted to, I sent out the Eunice and April, done a great job, and Gail, getting the finances out to you guys. We have $20,659,000 in our, in our investments and the cash and everything. We have the one thing, I just want to make sure we're still looking every month at the water, sewer, electric funds, making sure we have enough revenue and income every time. So, but that's it. Looks like we have some good balances now. We do have some encumbrances out there, so we just want to make sure we're making sure we're up to date on that. So other than that, that's about all I got.
Thank you. Law Director Palmer.
Yes, haven't had a chance to speak yet tonight, so this is great. Just let council members know you had seen no 598 related ordinances or resolutions on your plate this evening. The last action for appropriation is going in within the next couple, 3 days, hopefully. It is completed and all ready to go, and we'll go from there. But continued thanks to Natasha in the mayor's office, who has been the real linchpin of this process. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Tom.
Saw an email today. Anything you'd like to comment on the records request?
Other than the fact that I think there's one council member we haven't heard from. I'm not sure. I had to check with Matt because he's getting them independently of myself. But no, I think it's been, thanks to council, I think it's been a good process. And we're going to take care of the things that we need to do pursuant to Ohio law, and that's it.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mayor?
I really don't have anything tonight. I'll certainly answer any questions, but mercifully, I will spare you the monologue.
Okay, thank you. The only thing I would like to comment on is the great job the city street department did in removing snow and clearing the streets. Thought they did a great job for the amount of snow we had here. So kudos to them. So anybody else have anything for the good of the order tonight? If not, it's 7:40. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Presidente.
I'll second that motion.
Mr. Wilson, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those likewise, meeting hereby adjourned at 7:40. Thank you all for being here tonight. Good
Thank
night.
you.